Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now this time we will be taking a look at Hawkman from the Black Adam wave. Now, pretty interesting looking figure. He is, of course, the movie version of Hawkman. So he does have his own particular design and costume. But he still looked pretty good. I think when I first saw the reveals of these figures, I really wanted the cloaked Black Adam, and the Hawkman was also my top anticipated figures from this wave. Now he does look pretty golden in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Not really needed, but sometimes they come in useful. Now I know a lot of people complain that he should have came with a flight stand, but I mean honestly, come on, do I have extra flight stands? If you've been collecting McFarlane this long and you don't have any extra flight stands, go home, you're drunk. He also comes with his data file card. On the front you do have some comic book style artwork that is based on the character in the film. And on the back you do have some information. This is a newer version of Carter Hall, specifically made for the film, but pretty cool. We'll go ahead and add that to the collection. He also comes with his mace. Now, it's pretty cool looking. The ball has some really nice detailed sculpt work and some spikes on it, but it is pretty flimsy. But I do have a trick to take care of this. It's a little bit more of advanced of a trick, but I will show you how I do that. And he also comes with two wings. Now, these look pretty good. They are painted nicely and they do fit on him well. The only thing that is a negative about these wings that they are not articulated. So of course we will be taking a look at that and changing out the wings for some different ones. But let's go ahead and take a closer look at them. Now, first impressions, as I said before, this is not your traditional Hawkman. You know, the only thing I would say is that they do change these, characters for the films. That's, been a normal procedure for films. That's not a big deal. The only thing I would say is that a lot of times they start pushing this into the regular comics where the old original character is just tossed aside and now they make them in their new version, whatever that may be. Never been the biggest Hawkman fan, but he is a cool iconic figure. So it doesn't really bother me a lot. This is, of course, the version for the film. Now, he does look pretty cool. It's a more realistic looking Hawkman with a lot of armor and a cool uniform. They did have to go with some, unique colors. They do want to separate him from other characters, so that looks pretty good. But for all intents and purposes, as I said before, I actually liked this guy when I first saw him in the reveals. So I do like the design and he looks pretty cool. And I'm really excited to actually have him in hand now. Looks pretty good. Let's take a look at the head sculpt. Awesome head sculpt. That will give him that all day long. The detail in the wings on the helmet. The helmet has little, sculpt lines in there. A little bit of damage. All in all, looks really, really good. A little bit, let's look at the articulation. He does look down really good, and he also looks up really good. Now, there is a gap in the neck, and I would say that this is what allows for a smoother articulation, is because the head's a little bit high, so sometimes you gotta move him a little bit to hide that gap. But the gap also allows for cleaner movement, so it's like give and take. You get a little gap, but you get better articulation. He does have right to left, and you can tilt his head for some character. Pretty sweet. Let's take a look at the chest and armor. It's pretty cool. Kind of like I guess you could say body armor that he has underneath, and then he has like his shoulder pauldrons and straps. All in all, kind of a rugged Hawkman. More battle oriented, but he looks really cool. Let's take a look at the waist. He does have side to side, full waist rotation. He only has lower waist swivel because, of course, the upper is hidden underneath all this garb. You could still twist him, get him in some cool poses, but if you move him around a lot, he has some gap, around his waist. But of course, this figure is just to put in poses and have on the shelf, so no, it does not take away from the figure at all. He actually has some pretty nice crunch, and you can lean him back for some flight poses. So it is kind of free around the waist area, and you do get a little bit of gapping, but it allows for smoother movement and more range, and you can get him in some pretty awesome poses. And a lot of times that is what we really want. Let's take a look at the shoulder. We'll look at this side. Since this one has a big shoulder pauldron on it, you got that butterfly bushing in the shoulder, up and down, front to back, a lot of range, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, and then moving down, his arms are bare until you get up to these gauntlets or wrist or forearm guards. Now, I saw a lot of people saying that they messed up. They didn't paint a certain part here on the hinge of the elbow. But the more I looked at it and then I looked at the artwork, you know what it is? They did not paint actually the skin of the arms, like right past the elbow. So we'll also be doing that when I do my repaint here in a little bit. Going down to the wrist, you do have swivel and articulation. And on the other side, of course, you have that bigger shoulder guard. And going down into the forearm, you have like a sort of a more like armored weaponed piece. And then on this hand, on his left hand, he actually has kind of like some spikes protruding from the guard on his hand. So got a little bit more armory there. Another thing is on this side, the shoulder pauldron is really flimsy and like it's kind of hanging off of him. On the left side, it doesn't bother you too much because it's so big. But on this side, it kind of like hangs down, and sometimes you could expose, some of the guard here. So what I'm going to do is actually glue that. That way it'll like hold it in place without falling around, and it won't hurt the figure at all. Let's go into a T-pose. Pauldrons move out of the way. You can actually get a little bit higher, more of a Y pose. And then you could also put his arms forward to get him above his head. And they actually have a little bit of cutout. You could, fit the arms in there and kind of get them closer together. Pretty nice. Let's go down to the thighs. He does have thigh swivel. It's not too much. I'm not going to say that it is. It's a little bit tight, but you do have it there. He can kick up really high. Kick back really high. This is allowed by the rubber in the trunks, and when you put them back, they go back to their original form. You can cock out his leg, bend the knee, and he does have nice hip swivel. Double jointed knees that actually look really good. Straighten them out. You have up and down at the ankle, right to left, rocker, and toe articulation. Now before we go, let's take a look at the legs themselves. Like I said, this is a modern design, so it's more, realistic. He just has kind of like some tactical pants with some really big boots and armored up legs. But it is nice sculpt work, so all in all, really digging it. Take a look at him from the bottom. We do have some nice tread and some identifying marks. Moving up the back, more nice sculpt work, a lot of wrinkle work there. Up into the back armor. You can see all the straps, and then he does have the portholes for the wings. Now let's actually go ahead and slap those wings on and check out how he looks with them. Now, they do look okay. The only thing I would say is that they do kind of get bunched up with the wings on his helmet. So you have to really move them in a way where they're free of that. But like I said before, we're not really going to keep these wings on him. I already have some other wings for him. But let's take one last look at him. You got the back of the helmet with some really nice detailed sculpt work. All the shoulder armor. And then he does have the cutouts here in the back for the butterfly joints. Pretty cool. So before we get into the wings, let's go ahead and bring out Dr. Fate. Now, I did promise you guys I would repaint Dr. Fate in a more bluer scheme. Now, if you look at the statue version of Dr. Fate, it is a lighter blue with a little bit more detail on certain parts of the costume. And if you also look at Spin Master, it's a really light blue because I actually saw these in person, but even the images, the blue is like really light. That kind of gives you an idea of what it's supposed to look like. So I did repaint them all, took them apart, did some lighter blue, did the little red like jewel buckle on his belt line with even the black line around it, which came out really nicely. And then I did all the blue. Now you can still manipulate the arms and the legs so you don't lose articulation. And all in all, the change of color actually suits him really well. And now he looks more like a lot of the source material. Now, you could be saying, but Bones, you've ruined it. Like you won't have the same version. Yeah, but you know what? I could always buy another one and another one. And it will not affect me at all. I actually did also do the cape and some trim of gold around the cape. So pretty complete looking figure now. He looks really good. Really happy the way he came out. Now I've had this planned for a while, ever since I actually found out that the wings were not articulated. And I did have an extra Tyrant Joker. Now, I had actually been wanting to customize this guy for a long time, and I kind of went with a bronze look for him. So all the buckles, all the straps, I painted them bronze and gave him some other little touch-ups just to, separate him from the original release. So I had his wings laying around, but what I eventually decided to do was I painted the wings that come with Hawkman, and I actually did them in a copper look, and the pegs actually fit right in perfectly. And then I also blacked out like the kind of maroon color that is on the Hawkman, painted that black. So now I have a kind of copperish evil looking Tyrant Joker. But pretty cool. You know me, I like my custom figures, and I didn't really need his wings to articulate because I actually still do have an original unaltered version. So this one I'll keep, without any differences. He could still articulate his wings. But now I also have this cool custom painted version to have in my collection. And now finally the wings for Hawkman. I do have them here. Now I did actually, this took me a while. This is really what I've been doing for the last couple of days. And I actually painted them first yellow. And then I painted them with a gold on top. Of course these are going to go right into his back. And then I did the maroon part. It was a little bit difficult to match, but we got pretty close. And now you do have a cool winged Hawkman that can actually articulate his wings. Really takes that figure to the next level. And then of course you do have his mace. Now before we go, I did take apart the mace. I split it at the hilt, and then I drilled 2 holes on either side because it was, you know how it was kind of droopy. And then inside of there I actually added like it was like a broken needle, but it was long enough to fit into both sides, and that actually gives it some sturdiness so that it doesn't hang down anymore with the weight from the mace ball. So doing this little process, it actually stiffens it up, and now I don't have to worry about it flopping around. Put it into his hand, and then it could stand up on its own. It doesn't hang down at all. Just a little process. I mean, it's kind of hard when you do the drilling, but once you get it the way you want, you actually get a pretty nice mace that doesn't have that soft plastic look. But all in all, a lot of work to get this done. Glad to finally be finished with it. And I really like the way this Hawkman came out. He looks really good. Now I will be doing Atom Smasher next. Hopefully I can get it done pretty quick. But you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.